I had to get new glasses a couple weeks ago, and I don't know about you, but I procrastinate. So for about a good month, my old glasses were really annoying to me. I couldn't see through them very well. And I remember having this same talk with you all, maybe the first or second year I was here, about what happens when you need to change your prescription. When all of a sudden, the way you're looking at the world isn't working for you, and you need a new prescription. I noticed that this time I made it a little bit of a struggle. It was a struggle to get the correct prescription. I went to see my doctor, and then the first place I went to, the glasses weren't right, but they had me convinced maybe the prescription was wrong, and I was out of town, and whatever. I eventually just went to the place my doctor recommended in the first place, and he made me these glasses, and they work fine, and of course they're stunning too, so, you know. Well, there was the trouble with the wrong prescription was there was distortion. Now, distortion, you know, and it was really annoying to look at something that should be like this, and it kind of looked like this. Especially if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you know, or whatever. Reading was really annoying. And I was reminded again about how often we have distortion, whatever lens we're looking through. We think we are seeing things the way they are, but there's always a little bit of distortion, because when you're the fish in the water, you can't tell you're in the water. You just can't tell you're in the water. You think you're just existing. When whatever our perspective is, and it's so interesting that Brian came up with what he came up with, and you know, I came up with what I came up with, and Elsie, just everything comes together. The theme I wanted to talk about was a little bit of knowing that we all need our individual prescription for sure, and we all need to have some distance and the ability to look up close at ourselves. You know, we want to be able to look at ourselves, and we also want to have distance. You know, want to have distance. Now, I'm going to talk about some more examples of fish and water later, but the thing I was really excited about talking about was engage. About what does engage mean in our spiritual walk? Participate or become involved in. Participate in, take part in, join in, become involved in. And how important it is to engage in our spiritual evolution. And how do we do that? Well, it's so easy. We just engage in whatever we're doing at the moment, right? And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I had so much fun last Tuesday when we were practicing for the choir. There was a lot of singing and dancing, and Chris is a fabulous teacher. He's teaching me how to be a conductor. You know, he's teaching me. Every week I get a little better. You know, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what he does all the time. So he's a great teacher. He's teaching us to sing. He's teaching me to be a conductor. And it was just so much fun. And I felt my whole spirit being lifted up by just jumping in. The other thing about choir practice is you don't have, when you're practicing, you're just practicing, right? So whatever you do, you're all in, and you don't have that whatever we tend to put on self-consciousness or whatever it is that sometimes we think we have to be a certain way because other people are around. So there wasn't that. It was pure unself-consciousness and fun, and I just felt totally engaged, and I wanted to talk about engaging, you know, like, yeah, this is so much fun. Like, you just got to be engaged. That's it. That's all you have to be, engaged. And then everything flows. Well, then I had some days that were really hard for me to be engaged in. I have a story to talk about. One of my Facebook friends had a baby, and I think she has a colicky baby. I'm not sure, but I think she has. She shares a lot on Facebook, and I love her so much. Even though I don't know her that well, but I love her because she shares a lot of things, and you see this baby, and I pretty much think it's a colicky baby. Now, I myself thought I was an expert on babies for a long time. I had a lot of experience. I was the eldest of 8 kids, and I babysat tons of kids. I was a camp counselor. Roland and I have a fair amount of kids together. I got my hands on one kid. I got to raise him from a baby. And so I felt like I'd seen a lot of babies, and I knew how babies were. And my son Kelly was a little fussy. Every baby is a little fussy sometimes. So I just thought I knew what everything was, and he had a couple nights where he wouldn't stop crying. I thought that was colic. Then I met my friend's baby Jane about 25 years ago in October. And here's what my family and I would joke about Jane, that baby Jane, who we love dearly, was responsible for spontaneous vasectomies, spontaneous and just, miraculous vasectomies and spontaneous tubes being tied because of Jane. I had never seen the intensity of a baby crying like that. My poor friend, Sarah, who was the mom, she told me about it, and I would come and babysit, and it was like, well, I thought, well, I'm an expert. I can make her stop crying. That baby was just not happy. I don't know what it was, whether it was her stomach or what. It's not like she was neglected or, who knew. But she cried and cried and cried. And it wasn't just it was that baby sobbing that is the worst sound you ever have to hear, I think. And when you're the mother, it's like multiplied by 10. So baby Jane cried like that. And I was thinking, well, yeah, how do you be present for that? Like, that was probably one of the hardest things I was present for, and I just had her a couple of times. How do you be present for that? It takes a little bit of different energy than being present and engaging in choir, right? But that is the deal. Life offers us choir and baby Janes, And for choir, it's interesting. Choir, to be in a choir, you need more than one person. Otherwise, it's just you singing in the bathroom. And when you have something like a baby with colic, you pretty much need other people too. You definitely need other people. You need some people to hand it off to. You need some people to talk about it to. And you need some support. And, by the way, baby Jane is fine today. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I remember the thing I hope helped my friend was I felt like baby Jane was definitely a very wise soul, even though she wasn't quite so happy in the moment. I remember reading an autobiography of a yogi that Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, said he was that kind of baby. So, because he was born and he didn't, he remembered everything and he didn't speak that language yet. So he was just, he was an aware being. So I used to tell my friend Sarah, I think Jane is one of those aware beings and she doesn't speak the language yet, so she's pretty irritated, Who knows? I just like that story. It made me feel like, that there was some hope. And of course, after 6 months, I think 6 months is the magic time, I think almost all cases of colic go away. So, now, I thought I was a baby expert, but I didn't know what I needed about engaging till I had to engage with a baby with colic. Now, I think I'm an expert on taking care of my husband. And I find it pretty easy to engage with Roland. But this week, I need to engage with Roland having surgery. He's going to have surgery to remove a sarcoma on his leg. It's a very good, a very good prognosis. But let me tell you that all of a sudden, this kicked my butt. I thought I had been pretty caring and pretty nice, and let's just say I'm happy there wasn't a video camera following me around yesterday or the day before. It's like How do you engage with that? It's like, how do I engage with being afraid or feeling like I'm not in charge of the whole world, or something might happen that I don't like, or even if I know exactly what's going to happen, you know, feeling afraid, whatever it is, you know, how do I engage with that? Well, the answer that Roland, my wonderful husband, was trying to tell me about yesterday in his kind way when he wasn't saying, okay, I'll leave you alone. He said, well, when I was getting afraid about this, I just meditated. Oh. And then it was okay. Oh, yeah. And let me just tell you, I am the student learning as I'm talking. So this don't anybody think that I'm talking about how I live my life above the clouds. I am in the thick of it right now, and this is kicking my butt. So good, right? Good. It's really good. I'm humbled by this. I'm really humbled by this. So that's good. It's good to be humbled when you think you're saying, oh yeah, just meditate. I mean, I've said that. Meditation will help. But, you know, sometimes we're in the frickin' sewer, right? You know, whatever our each and individual sewer is. Whatever it is for us, whether it's a baby with colic, you know, or it's a surgery for someone you love, or a loss of somebody who died, or your own health challenge, or whatever it is. Or maybe it's a situation at work, or you're fighting, you know, maybe you're fighting an addiction. Whatever it is, it's so much, it's so much bigger sometimes when you're in it, right? So the point that I want us to make to all of us, that it's the good news and the bad news. Now, here was my fantasy about how to get through the surgery. I thought that if they just knocked me out the entire time while Roland was having the surgery, I would be happier. We would wake up at the same time, and I wouldn't have to go through that stress, right? I thought that was a brilliant idea. The good, bad news is, no. The way to get through it is to be in it and to engage in it. To be just as engaged in what's happening when it more or less sucks as when it's more or less awesome. And that's our spiritual walk. Now, Roland was watching a science fiction movie, and I was watching part of it called Lucy. And I don't know if you've seen Lucy, but it's a very pretty person, Scarlett Johansson, who gets some kind of weird superpower. And I didn't see all the movies, so I'm going to miss all the important parts. But she's basically turns into, at a certain part, she is really, like, can kick everybody's butt that needs to be kicked, good and bad. She's just powerful. And then, because I believe the plot is her brain power is increasing. She's using more and more of her brain. And it's interesting because the parts that I saw, first she would, you know, take care of everything out of her way, and she grew, and she almost grew magical and could intersect with computers and everything. But in the end, here's what happened. And if you're going to go see it, I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you. Plug your ears right now if you don't want to hear this. In the end, she became everything. She reached her full potential, and she was everywhere and everything. That is actually what we're aiming for in our engagement. To be engaged everywhere and with everything. Because that is what God is, and that is what the Christ is in us, and that is what we connect to and everybody. So, and that is the reward. Okay? The reward, and you all know it, because I know that everybody has had times when they wanted to be unconscious. and instead they dug in and they said, okay, I'm going to be present for this. And something happened, didn't it? The world became more everything. We became more connected. We became more of ourselves. We became more me, right? We became more the best me and more the best you. So, let's, all of us, just engage, to the amount we can. There's only so much of a colicky baby you should engage with. You should engage with a colicky baby as much as you can love it and be okay with it. When your peace goes away, you find someone and say, will you please hold my baby? And then, will you please hold my husband? Will you please hold whatever? Will you please take care of this for me? That's how much you should engage, And then you step back in the fray and you keep engaging. And then the miracle happens. We get to be one with everything. So let's take an offering for unity.